The ancient world of 356 BC was a tumultuous time. Kingdoms were shifting, alliances were fleeting, and rivalries festered across the lands. The known world seemed on the verge of constant upheaval. Yet, in the far northern reaches of the Greek world, in the kingdom of Macedon, a child was born who would change everything. This child, Alexander, would grow up not just as a prince, but as a force of nature, an unstoppable conqueror. His name would echo through the halls of history, reshaping the entire ancient world. He was destined not just for greatness, but for the type of immortality reserved for legends. From an early age, Alexander showed signs of greatness. While other children played with toys, he was already being groomed for leadership. At just 12 years old, a momentous event occurred that would change his life. He tamed the wild stallion Bucephalus, an act that stunned even the most hardened of warriors. Most men would have been terrified to approach such a beast, but not Alexander. His calm demeanor and unshakable courage in the face of danger were unmistakable signs of the warrior king he was destined to become. This moment set the stage for a future full of military triumphs and legendary conquests. In 336 BC, tragedy struck the Macedonian court. King Philip II, the brilliant architect of Macedon's military dominance, was assassinated in a sudden and shocking turn of events. With his father's death, the crown passed to his 20-year-old son, Alexander. Though young, Alexander was no stranger to leadership. His military education, his experience as a commander in his father's campaigns, and his sharp intellect had prepared him for this moment. But now he faced a daunting task, unifying a fractured empire, securing his position, and preparing for the war that would stretch his reach to the ends of the known world. The world was watching, waiting to see if this young king would rise to meet the immense challenges ahead. Alexander's first act as king was to secure his reign over a divided Greece. His father had united the Greek city-states under Macedonian hegemony, but rebellions still simmered beneath the surface. Alexander, though young, was no stranger to battle. With unmatched decisiveness and military skill, he crushed the revolts, showing no mercy to traitors. His forces marched across Greece, bringing even the most rebellious cities to heel. By the end of his campaign, he was not just a king, he was the unchallenged master of Greece. He was crowned as the protector of Greece and made it clear to all that he was not to be underestimated. With Greece under his control, the young king turned his eyes eastward to the vast and powerful Persian Empire. In 334 BC, Alexander set his sights on Asia Minor, the gateway to Persia. With his army of 35,000 men, he crossed the Hellespont and entered the heart of Persian territory. His first confrontation with the Persian forces came at the Battle of Granicus, where the Persian satraps, governors, hoped to stop his march before it gained momentum. Alexander's strategy was swift, his cavalry aggressive, and his leadership inspiring. In a brilliant display of military might, he decimated the Persian forces, leaving them in disarray. This victory was only the beginning. Alexander wasn't just a conqueror, he was a strategic mastermind who saw opportunity in every battlefield and knew exactly how to exploit it. The Persian Empire now knew it was in for a fight unlike any they had ever encountered. A year later, at the Battle of Issus, Alexander would face the might of the Persian Empire head-on. Darius III, the Persian king, had gathered an enormous army to crush Alexander's forces. But Alexander, always the tactician, turned the tables. He outflanked Darius and used the terrain to his advantage, despite being vastly outnumbered. In the chaos of battle, Alexander's bravery was evident as he led from the front, charging toward the heart of the Persian army. Darius, seeing his forces crumbling, fled the battlefield in disgrace, leaving his empire to fall apart. This was not just a military victory, it was a psychological blow to the Persian Empire. The myth of the invincible Persian king was shattered forever. Tyre, An island city stood as a major obstacle between Alexander and complete control over the eastern Mediterranean. The city was protected by massive walls, a formidable navy, and an unwavering determination to remain independent. Alexander, undeterred by the seeming impossibility of the task, laid siege to Tyre. The siege lasted for 7 months, during which Alexander's forces constructed a causeway, a monumental feat of engineering that allowed them to breach the city's walls. Once inside, Tyre fell swiftly. The city was razed, and its defenders were either killed or enslaved. It was yet another display of Alexander's determination, vision, and genius. He was not just a soldier, but a master of warfare and strategy. Alexander's conquest of Egypt was marked by a different kind of victory. The Egyptians, long oppressed by the Persians, welcomed him as a liberator. Alexander was crowned Pharaoh of Egypt, and he embraced his new title with reverence, knowing that Egypt's ancient heritage could be the foundation of his larger ambitions. While in Egypt, Alexander founded the city of Alexandria, which would go on to become one of the greatest centers of learning and culture in the ancient world. Here, Alexander was not just a conqueror, he was a ruler, seen as divine, and his reputation grew. He was now not only king of Macedon and Persia, but also Pharaoh of Egypt, a godlike figure to many in the ancient world. In 331 BC, Alexander and Darius would meet once more at the Battle of Gaugamela. This would be the final, decisive confrontation between the two kings, the one that would determine the fate of the Persian Empire. Darius, this time, fielded a massive force, some estimate it at over 100,000 men, against Alexander's 47,000 troops. But Alexander, as always, had a plan. He baited Darius into committing his forces too early, then used his cavalry to strike at the heart of the Persian army. Darius, realizing that all was lost, fled the battlefield yet again. With this victory, the Persian Empire was no more. Alexander was the undisputed ruler of Asia, and the conqueror's road stretched on before him. After conquering Persia, Alexander marched eastward, crossing the mighty Indus River into the land of India. There, he faced his toughest opponent yet, King Porus, who commanded a large force that included war elephants. At the Battle of the Hydaspes in 326 BC, Alexander faced an enemy unlike any he had encountered before. The battle was fierce, with both sides fighting with incredible tenacity. Despite the elephants and difficult terrain, Alexander emerged victorious once more. But beyond the battlefields, Alexander's heart was often given to those he loved. One of the most important and enduring relationships in his life was with Hephaestion, his close companion and confidant since childhood. The bond between them was unbreakable, and it has been speculated that their relationship was far more than just friendship. Hephaestion was a central figure in Alexander's personal and military life. They fought side by side, shared triumphs, and weathered hardship together. When Hephaestion tragically died in 324 BC, Alexander was devastated. His grief was overwhelming, and he honored Hephaestion's memory in grand fashion, even founding cities in his name. Alexander's heart, forever intertwined with Hephaestion's, showed his human side, a side that few saw behind the image of the unyielding conqueror. Despite his victories, Alexander's reign would not last forever. As his empire expanded, the strain of constant warfare, the heat of the desert, and the harsh conditions of his travels began to take a toll on his health. In 323 BC, after a long night of drinking in Babylon, Alexander fell seriously ill. Some say it was a fever, while others speculate that he may have been poisoned. Regardless, the young king's health rapidly deteriorated, and just a few days later, he died at the age of 32. His death sent shockwaves through the empire. His body was embalmed and placed in a golden sarcophagus, and his vast empire, without a clear heir, began to unravel. After Alexander's death, his empire, built on his brilliance and ambition, slowly crumbled. Without a strong successor, his generals, known as the Diadochi, fought for control over his vast territories. The once unified empire split into kingdoms, each ruled by a different general. The empire that Alexander had built with such relentless determination now fragmented into pieces. Alexander had always dreamed of a united world, but in the end, his untimely death left his legacy to be contested, as his dream of a single empire collapsed in the wake of his passing. And yet, despite the fragmentation of his empire, Alexander's legacy endures. His conquests stretched from the Mediterranean to the edges of India, reshaping the world in ways that no one could have imagined. His cultural influence spread far beyond the battlefield, as he spread Greek culture, philosophy, and thought across his empire. Today, his name is synonymous with greatness, and his story continues to captivate the world. Alexander the Great, conqueror, king, lover, and dreamer, will never be forgotten. His legend will live on, forever etched in history.